Safe Haven by Kristen Proby, performed in dual by Savannah, Peachwood and Crais. So this book is Willow and Riker, and it's a friends to lovers. Willow is a kinship carer for her nephew, and he's a teenager now, and she's having some problems with him, and so she goes to her best friend in Riker, who is a hockey player who's just getting set to retire and is going to run the ranch. As the book starts, we meet him just as he is going to spend the summer at a ranch, and he's then adopted by the owners of the ranch, and we then have the adoptive parents. One had passed away previously, and then the last remaining parent passes away super early in the book, which is a trigger warning, so I don't consider it a spoiler because I would be trigger warning it for grief, because it's a big major trigger and you need it for the entire book, because without it there is no story, and so he decides he's gonna run the ranch, and so because Willow is struggling so much, he is like, bring him here and he can help with the ranch. But because of the trauma, she's like, he's not staying here, I will bring him every day, and that takes its toll pretty soon because she's also an audiobook narrator, and doing the back and forth is killing her. So she is like, I can't do this anymore, this is exhausting. And he's like, just move in here, buddy, best bud, and who I'm madly in love with, but you know, let's not get into it. And she's like, I can't, I've got the job and blah blah blah. And he's like, come with me, come with me. Opens it up because there's got money, right? Studio right there that he's created for her, and so she's got no excuse there. She obviously moves in, close proximity, and as is wont, that closeness soon develops into more. And we see the nephew is getting more comfortable, he's changing how he's speaking to her, how he's behaving around her, but he's also becoming more comfortable in himself and opening up. And through the book we discover that not only has he had to endure the trauma that he's had to endure, but also there have been other things, and he's been trying to process those by himself rather than seek the support of the people around him. And I think it was a really great representation of how trauma and bullying can take its toll on a child, and especially when you factor in hormones and everything else. I, on a personal level, really appreciated how adoption was viewed in this. I love the fact that they included like a kinship adoption and also the adoption from foster care. And there is a mention in here of, they're looking at a picture and she says, oh, it's your gotcha day, and he says, well, something along the lines of, we're not pets. And honestly, I had a fist punch moment, because I have had people, I will say it's mainly been Americans, and so I just assumed that was an American thing, refer to things around my son's adoption as that, and I find it so minimizing of my experience, of his trauma, to call it that. So to have that line be in there, I was very happy. And I do spend most of my time when people say that being like, talking myself off a ledge of not saying like, please do not call it that. That is not an appropriate term to say to somebody that you don't know. Anyway. And so this is Friends to Lovers, and we very much get that vibe all the way through, that even though when they start seeing one another they are still very much friends through it. And I think for a lot of romances, we do miss that. You know, that switch is flipped from the friends to the lovers. And a lot of the time, the friends thing kind of falls off. But we don't get that here. They're very much still rooted in friends. And he is still very supportive of her in that parenting role. And that was really good to see. I got very frustrated with him with his jealousy around her work colleague, though, because for a man that claimed to listen to every book she had ever recorded and knew what her job entailed and everything, listening to her running lines is where he drew the line and had to get all alpha on. No, man. Who are you? What are you doing? Because she didn't have a problem with all the chicks that were all over you. Just saying. And there's a little bit of a situation that comes up, and I mean little, like you find out something's going on and then straight away we know who it is. And so if that's your jam, know that it's just a small piece of it. Loved how supportive his team was of him, and it was a really good listen. Crais, I've done a lot of Connor just recently, so when I realised he was on this one as well, I did and ah about whether I could really do another one, but I really wanted to listen to this, so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm glad I did, because I do think he was good in this, but I think if another one comes up and it's him, I'm going to have to just be like, I need to pass, just for a little while. Girl needs a break. But he was very much suited to Riker and his sweet and grumpy and alpha-y. He sort of had it all, depending on who he was talking to and what vibe he was in, and it was a lot of fun to listen to. And then obviously we have Savannah, and Savannah's always a yes. I love listening to Savannah. I mean, what's not to love with her mask voice? Like, come on now. And she's always a delight when it comes to the femme voice, and it's always a solid performance, always. And I think they balance each other out really well, and it was a really great performance. So yeah, you should check it out.